All right, so good morning, everybody, right? Welcome to the last week of summer school. It's actually only half of a week, so we only got today and tomorrow, right? So you guys almost made it. And today we're just gonna finish up what we started last week, which was lesson 6, real world expressions, right? So like usual, it's the second day. After we go through the lesson, you guys are gonna work on finishing the mastery test on your own during the independent math time. And after I go over a couple of slides, we're gonna play some games of Kahoot to practice actually writing some real world expressions, right? So last week we finished off looking at this slide here, where you guys are just gonna go through the scenarios, answer those questions, and if you have any questions on anything here, let me know and I can try to help clarify some things, okay? So I believe that the remaining of the slides here, there's one more example that we have here, and then the rest of them kind of just have to do with evaluating these expressions, okay? So I'm gonna set the chat to host only right now. I want you guys, ideally we did this one already last week. If you didn't, just try and do it quickly now. Just let me know what you think the correct answer is here. So since you were supposed to do it already last week, I'm gonna set a timer for just 1 minute after I read the scenario. So it says, Angie takes a ferry ride with her niece. The cost of a ticket for an adult is $3 more than the cost of the ticket for a child, her niece. If the cost of an adult ticket is X dollars, which expression gives the total cost of the ticket for Angie and her niece? All right, so you've got 1 minute. Write your answers in the chat. Right, you can write the expression itself, like 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3, or we can just call the first one out, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, write it in the chat. So here. Oops. Seconds. That was time. I'm seeing a mixture of answers here. So I'm seeing some people said A, some people said the second one. I don't think anybody said the bottom two, which is good, right? So nobody said this one here. I'm not sure why we're not writing. There we go. So Grace having some technical difficulties right now. All right, nobody said these two. So it looks like most people are thinking that it's either between this one. My pen does not want to write on this side of the screen for some reason. All right. So let's try and figure this one out here, okay? So it says Angie takes a ferry ride with her niece, right? So we've got, let's break it up into, okay, let's just scratch the pen for today. Not sure what's going on there, guys, sorry. So Angie is going on a ferry ride with her niece, right? So we have two people. It says that the cost of a ticket for an adult is $3 more than the cost of the ticket for a child, right? So let's say, I really want to write this out. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, it's not working. It's going to be a pretty bad recording. All right, so Angie's going to pay $3 more, right? It makes more sense that the adult has to pay some more money. So it says here, if the cost of an adult ticket is X dollars, which represents the total cost of the ticket for Angie and her niece, all right? So the adult is paying more money, right? So if Angie, the adult, pays X dollars, that means that her niece, right? If we said X plus 3, that would be incorrect, because that would mean that she's paying more, right? The niece is paying less. It's going to be X minus 3, the child's ticket. So if I were to add together, it actually ends up with 2x minus 3, right? So if you pick 2x minus 3, you got it correct. If you got 2x plus 3, right? 2x plus 3 would be correct if x represented the price of the daughter.
So just pay attention and just
price of the adult ticket, we actually have to subtract to figure out what the total is. So this is where you need to be careful about what the variable represents. Because in this case here, x could represent two things. It could represent the cost of the adult ticket, or it could represent the cost of the niece's ticket. That's going to give you two different expressions. Last week, okay? So if you got it right, good. If you got it wrong, don't worry about it. Just make sure you look out for that in the future, right? That's the main thing, is that we're using this as a learning experience. So I'd rather you get it wrong now and get it right next time, right? So this example here is kind of just going over stuff that we already did last week when we were talking about evaluating expressions. So this is kind of saying that we have an example here where for some reason people are ordering binders and boxes. They know that there were 12 boxes, right, Yuzu. So ideally, I'm just going over this stuff quickly. We should have finished this already last week. So this is more for me to just clarify some things, good, right? So either way, they end up with this expression. This expression here is 12x plus 5. And all that they're trying to do here, I'm not going to go over everything here because it's pretty straightforward, is just try and see which of these numbers, either 2, 4, 6, or 8, makes this expression here, 12x plus 5, equal to 77, right? That's all that they're doing here. So they start with this expression, 12x plus 5. They replace the x with different numbers. So for the first one here, they replaced the x with the number 2. They found that it equaled 27. This one, they replaced the x with the number 4. The only one that worked was this one here. When x is equal to 6, they got 77. Right, so I'm not worrying about the context here really. Just this technique of evaluating expressions is mathematically how we say that, right? If you guys have questions, you don't understand this one, just please let me know. I can go over it in more detail, but we've gone over stuff like this already. Right, what I do want to do though is give you guys a chance to look at this one here, right? So I'll read the scenario out loud here. It says, Mrs. Henderson has 60 pens and pencils in her desk. She knows that she has twice as many pencils as pens. She writes 2x plus x for the total number of pens and pencils, right? So if she has x pens, then the number of pencils that she has is 2x, so altogether 2x plus x, right? So it says where x is the number of pens, which number in the set, so either 15, 20, 25, or 30, makes this expression here equal to 2x plus x, right? So I'm going to have to put a trackpad. It's like saying 2x plus x equals 60. So all you're trying to do is figure out which of the numbers from this list here, 15, 20, or 20, 25, or 30, when you replace it in for the x's, gives you 60. So I'll give you guys 1 minute. Just give me your answers in the chat, and I'm going to try to troubleshoot my pens. All right, so 1 minute. Let's give answers. Yes, ideally this one should be easy. So if you think it's easy, good. If you're confused about it, please let me know. Okay, so time's up. Give me 1 second. I'm still trying to fix my pen here. Okay, so I do see that some people got it right in the chat. Some people also got the wrong answer. Jaden, would you mind annotating on the screen to show us how you got the answer? Just give me a second. I actually have to turn on annotations. Or if Jaden, if you don't want to, Alfie would like to. I'm not hearing. Yeah, he said sure. Oh, Jaden's doing it. Okay. So Jaden chose the X value of 20, right? So what he's saying here is 2 multiplied by 20 gives you 40. And then if you add on the other 20, you get to 60, right? So Jaden correctly chose, and he's not the only person, those people got it right as well. This X value here is the one that makes it work, right? So all he did here, right? He did it in 2 steps. First, he substituted the 20 in for the X. That's why he has 2 times 20. That gives you 40. And then he substituted the other 20 in for that X. So you end up with 40 plus the 20 gives you to 60. Okay? So good. Hopefully everybody got that right. If anybody got the wrong answer, I did see some other people say like 15, 25, 30. Just be careful with the math, right? It's easy to make a mistake if you're kind of rushing through it. Just take your time, make sure you look at the values and try to figure it out, okay? It's nothing to get discouraged about, right? Getting things wrong is just part of learning. We all get things wrong, right? I get things wrong too, all right? So I actually think we're up to the summary slide for today. So we're almost done with the live portion, and then we're just gonna get into playing some Kahoot, okay? So it says, in this lesson, you saw how to write an expression with a variable to represent a real-world quantity and evaluate the expression for different values of the variable, right? So we did 2 things. The first thing is that first, we looked at some written word problems. We wrote those out into expressions with variables. And then what we did today was we just evaluated those expressions, right? So when you see evaluate an expression, all that's saying is to give the variable a number and figure out what it is, right? That's what it means to evaluate something in math, right? They say plug in. I use the term substitute. Try to use substitute. That's more mathematically correct. It says when interpreting an expression for a real world problem, you must understand the meaning of words and phrases to identify the correct mathematical operations for the expression, right? So you need to understand things like sum, product, difference. Those are going to be keys to help you write those expressions out. And just the more math problems that you do, the easier this is going to get, right? It says also sometimes a problem may have multiple unknown quantities that are related to each other. Depending on the meaning of the variable you use, you may get different expressions for the same quantity, right? So that's like that example with the cost of the ferry ride, right? If we let the variable represent the cost for the adult ticket versus the cost for the niece's ticket, you end up with 2 different expressions. So you need to be careful if they give you the variable to make sure you're using it correctly, right? So you guys are going to be using expressions a lot as you get more and more into pre-algebra and then eventually algebra. So hopefully this helped to get you guys on the right path to 7th grade, all right? So we're done with the live portion of the lesson. What we're going to do now is we're going to practice with some games of Kahoot. I chose 2 different games, so we have about half an hour. We'll see how much time we have. We can get through both of them. But we're going to be mostly focusing on this first step, which was writing expressions with variables, right? The evaluating part is pretty straightforward, so I just want to focus mostly on the writing because that's usually where students get stuck, all right? So I'm going to end the recording here, and then we're going to get started with the game.